Welcome, everybody, to the Detroit Institute of Arts, Thursdays at the Museum program. I'm Ian Rapnicki. I'm a Community Engagement Manager at the DIA. Today, we'll be visiting the studio of Justine Allenette Ross, who is a commercial artist, an illustrator, an art director, and a designer. Justine will share some examples of her digital illustration work and walk us through her process. Speaking with her today will be Zach Freeling, DIA studio coordinator, and he'll take your questions throughout the program. So if you're watching on YouTube, just make sure you're logged in if you have a question, and you can leave a comment there. If you're watching on Facebook, then you can also leave a public comment there as well at any point. But I'm excited to see Justine's work, so how about we just get started? Justine and Zach, you ready?
Hi, thanks, Ian. And hi, Justine. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for joining us today. Nice to be chatting. Nice to have you here. I'm really
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Ian, I think is going to pull up our slideshow and we can just jump right into it. There's our museum. There we go. So there's your headshot you sent us, which I love that you sent not just a illustration, but a animated illustration, which I thought was really cool, and your logo there. That seems like a good chance for us to hear just a little bit about who you are, what you do, just elaborate a little more on what Ian said.
Okay. Hi, I'm Justine. I am a commercial artist and illustrator working in like the Metro Detroit area. I kind of do like a little bit of everything, but my main focus is illustration. I graduated from Wayne State in 2017, which was like 4 years ago, long time ago. And from there, I freelanced, and now I work for University of Michigan in the creative department. So yeah, that's just me. I'm working and drawing and trying my best to survive the pandemic.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks again for having us. Let's look at your first piece here. We've got a handful, probably a dozen or so of your illustrations we're going to look at before we get into a little demo. We're going to talk about how you make your work. And this is from a series, right? Can you tell us a little bit about this one in this series?
Well, last year I started kind of like my Detroit Spot series, which is relatively ongoing. I do believe that Detroit gets a very bad rap. So I wanted to highlight the areas that, I think are beautiful and that, that are local and beloved. So I started with the Easter Market because everyone loves the Easter Market. And so, yeah, and it's been really fun. It's like I said, the series is ongoing, but this is like, the first piece that I started with. Yeah, and this is the Riverwalk. So I started with the Easter Market, and I then went to the Riverwalk. So my thing with this series is I wanted to kind of capture the area. Like with the Easter Market, I wanted a lot of texture. I wanted like a lot of warm colors, a lot of very crowded. And like with the Riverwalk, it's very blue because it's by the water. So I focused on the blueness of it, the big sky, that kind of how it's very ordered and goes in one direction. So like with this series, my main focus is to highlight the essence of the area. So that's, I love these two pieces. So. But yeah, the Easter Market print, it kind of like it went low key like viral locally. It was yeah, like last year the Easter Market actually posted it on their Instagram and their Twitter, and like I actually had to sell prints because so many people liked it so much. So yeah, people love this piece.
I love this one. I love that you capture it so accurately, but also it's got a lot of just sort of fun, this geometric shapes and lines, and the way you just kind of have the gesture of the building there with the mural. That big produce cow mural is a really nice touch. It's like, general enough that it could be any farmer's market anywhere in the world, but also has these very specific things that are clearly our Eastern Market that people recognize and probably really relate to. And the colors, it's really good, like fun, breezy, but kind of earthy colors.
Yeah, it's kind of earthy. It's funny with this piece because it took off so well. I was, I stare at it sometimes because I have it hanging behind my desk, and I'm like, what is it about this piece that people like so much? And I think part of it is I released it when everyone, it was October-ish, so we was like in the midst of like the first wave of COVID. And two, it kind of, since it's like yellow, it kind of glows. So I think it has this like air of like kind of optimism. People like, I guess people may be like missing crowds kind of. So like, I don't know, there's just, I look at it every day and I try to figure it out, but like I'm not mad at it or anything. Like, it's just funny. Just this, sometimes when you work, you have that one piece that people just absolutely love, and this is, I've done other things, but this is that one piece.
So was this intended to be a series, and did you start with this and then kind of decide to grow it from there?
It actually intended to be a series. Okay. So I was like, oh, I want to do a series of Detroit spots. Because I actually did this in the middle of another series that we're probably going to talk about later. So I was like, well, I'm going to start with the Eastern Market because everyone loves the Eastern Market. So I started with the Eastern Market, and then from there I went to the Riverwalk, and then I did the Coney Island one. And then after that, I thought it was gonna, because I like threes, so I tend to do threes, but I was like, no, I don't feel finished. I feel so like this can be ongoing. So the latest one I did was actually the conservatory at Belle Isle, that one, and so that's the latest one. But I have actually a couple more in my mind that I want to do. I want to start doing more that are like really, really local, that like only people from here know about. So I have a couple in my mind that I'm going to do in the future.
I was wondering about that. That was actually one of the questions I had. I was wondering if this was going to be an ongoing series or if there were any spots you had plans to follow up with or do, which I don't know if you can share those if you're waiting until they terminate. But
I like to keep people a little surprised. So I won't be sharing right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I like to keep people. So I won't be sharing right now, but like hopefully like very soon in the future, you'll be able to see them.
Okay, cool. Well, that gives us a reason to keep an eye out. But yeah, I love these ones. They're just so instantly recognizable, and they're, a few of my favorite spots as well. This one especially, I really like the conservatory there, which just finally reopened, which was so nice to be able to go back to. That was one thing I definitely really, really missed. And I think that's definitely something that spoke to me about these two, is just, when after a year of not going out and not being around crowds or not being around people, seeing these just makes you kind of realize what you had maybe taken for granted a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's why this series has been very kind of successful for me, because people kind of miss how it used to be. Like, we can go out, we can, there's a nice sense of like before with this series, which I kind of wanted to tap into. I wanted to be kind of like a before or like a post, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Not necessarily now. I don't know, it also feel a little bit nostalgic maybe. So but yeah, I'm glad that you caught that.
I know one thing for me too, like last summer especially, it made me really appreciate these are all outdoor spots you've done. And it made me really appreciate, that was the one place where you could get together with people and not worry about things as much, and just, really taking advantage of these beautiful outdoor spaces that we have, like the Riverwalk and Belle Isle.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because like I am not very outdoorsy at all. And I think why I draw outdoors stuff so much is because I'm so inside. Like, I'm so inside. So I think that's why I gravitate towards areas that are like outside or where there's like a big sky, because especially now I'm very much in my orange room. So,
so it's kind of like wishful,
Exactly. It's kind of like wishful fulfillment.
So we saw your self-portrait there, and we're talking about these places and that you may or may not like going, or actually that you like going but may not always have time to. Do you ever sneak yourself into any of your works, like a little hidden self-portrait?
No, I actually never really done that before. The thing is, like, I don't know. I like to like draw. I'm very, I guess, imaginary. So like, I like to challenge myself to like think of as many different type of people like as I possibly can, without any references to like me or my family or anything like that. But no, I never snuck myself in there. But now you give me an idea. I might do that. I might do that in the future. I might sneak myself in one of my drawings.
Okay. So now so now I've got two things to look forward to: your next Detroit Spot series, and then also like a possible Where's Justine element.
Yes, you do. You do. I know
Oh, yeah.
there's this famous, I forget his name. There's this famous illustrator. He did a lot of stuff for like theater and actors and things like that. I think his name Al Hirschfield, I think that was his name was.
Yeah, yeah.
And he will sneak his daughter's name in all of his illustrations, and
Oh,
people will
interesting.
try to find it.
Interesting. Yeah, he would do a lot of like really like long wavy like caricatures. Everything's real simple. Here we got our first question, which if you have a question at any point, feel free to write it in the chat. We might not get to them right away, but we'll get to them when they fit in. But this seems like a good one, kind of leading into our next image we're going to look at. Heidi asks, tell me about the difference you feel concerning digital work and, let's say, a more traditional medium. Does one inform the other?
Yes, it does. Like, even though I primarily work digitally, a lot of times I start out with a sketch, like an analog sketch, if I have time, and then I put that in the computer. And like me personally, I like things that look like they meld the two. So I actually work a lot with a particular kind of brush tool that replicates drawing in the actual with the actual brush tool, because when I'm sketching and stuff, I draw with an actual brush tool. I like things with texture, so I like to emulate texture, and certain texture you can only really get in real life. But I like to try to find the best way to kind of replicate that digitally. So they definitely inform. With my work personally, it definitely informs how I put things digitally. Like I like things to look, because with digital, if you're not careful, it can kind of look kind of cold. I like
Yeah.
things to have like a warmth to them, a humanity. And I think you can really only get that if you try to find something in real life, or if you like, there's nothing will, to me, in my personal opinion, that nothing will top like a painting. Nothing will top like something physical that you can like see in the real world. Nothing's going to top that. But the way I work, since I work digitally, and I'm a terrible painter, I still like to like try to add like those kind of analog elements into my digital work.
Yeah, and we were talking a bit before this about printmaking and some printmaking
Yeah,
experiences
yeah, yeah.
we've had. And that's something I noticed in a few of these. You've got sort of that half tone texture and just some other things that look kind of, sort of.
Which is something I started incorporating into my work after I worked at a print shop. So like half tones, like particular colors, those I kind of were informed from me working at a print shop. So.
Nice. And I think our next one here, we've got another. So this is a piece you were hired to do, I'm assuming. Can you tell us a little bit about, this is a cover of Metro Times from about a year ago, last summer, maybe?
It was this summer.
This summer, yeah.
And it's kind of thanks to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made that connection for me.
That's right. Yeah, we had
this one, honestly,
and then, yeah.
Yeah. This piece is probably one of my favorite things I've ever done. What I love about it is like I said, I do a little bit of everything. I have experience in art direction. I definitely have experience in design, because that's what I went to, Wayne State for. And what I like about it is that it is very, I was challenging myself to make something that is compositionally kind of rigid, but still very human. So that's why you see a lot of straight lines, is quite isometric. There's a lot of, there's a lot of like still like warm colors and stuff. So I wanted to bring the two worlds of like isometric, rigid grid, and I wanted to meld that with people and like my sort of like line work and what I relatively like value. So what I was happy about is that I was able to meld all these things together into this one piece.
Nice.
So yeah, it's one of my favorite things. So like there's texture, there's like I like shapes. I love making shapes in the background. I love clouds. So like
yeah, and there's a lot of clear design elements. You've got a lot of figurative stuff, so even some like more dimensional figurative stuff. Some flat.
And another thing too, which is to me very important, even though I'm imagining these people, I want them to feel real. I want them to feel like they have lives. Like I want them to feel like if they jumped off of the page, they can go home. If that makes any sense, I want
Yeah.
them to feel like fleshed out. And so I think I was able with this piece to make everyone feel like, you know, kind of fleshed out and like they have their own lives and like they live outside of the universe of what I created. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask too a little bit about the process of this, of being commissioned for something like this, because this is a free weekly paper.
Yeah.
And it comes out every week if you're in the Detroit area.
Mhm.
And it's also online, obviously. And yeah, so I'm just wondering what what direction were you given, what the timeline was like, if there were a lot of notes back and forth. Did you get to, this was the short story issue. Did you read any of the shorts or just
Yeah, I was reached out. The writer reached out to me, and he was like, because I did work for Metro Times before in December last year. I did the zigzag cover, and so the writer loved my work, and so he wanted me to do this, and it was for the art issue, which is like the relatively like a bigger issue for Metro Times. So he told me, he said, I just want you to think of connection. He said, I wanted something optimistic and something with connection. And he's like, that's the only thing I'm going to give you, because everything else is going to be up to you to interpret what connection means. So like, I actually went kind of like really literal. I asked my friends and family, I'm like, well, what does connection mean to you? And so my mom said hands, and my dad said, you know, driving and traveling in cars, and like other people said like things like touch and things. So I try to incorporate what everyone told me into this piece. So that's why you know you have the car driving, the car is traveling. And the other part of this illustration, you see like two hands touching. And then right here, what you can see, like they're reaching for each other, and they're trying to get to each other. And the panels at the top, the two guys are talking, the two ladies are talking. I just wanted everyone to feel like they're touching and coming together and like, kind of fellowshipping with another. So yeah, so I try to take all the elements, what I think of touch and what my family thought of touch, and I put in here. And so I sent them the sketch. They're like, dope, keep doing it. And so I sent him another sketch with colors. And he was like, dope, love the colors. Going. And so I just,
Okay.
and then from there, I just relatively finished. I actually, like for the first time I did the Metro Times cover, I had a very short amount of time. I had like a week or less to get that done, which was fine because honestly, just a self-portrait, and I was able to bust that out real quick. But this, they reached out to me like a few months prior, actually. And so by like April, I think they might have reached out to me like maybe like January. I had like a lot of months, and then I had a lot of time to do it. And I really appreciate them reaching out to me like very far in advance, because it gave me a lot of time to think about where I wanted to take this. It gave me a lot of time to execute. And so yeah, it came out really nice. This is probably one of my favorite things, like I said earlier, because it incorporates a lot of elements, but it still feels very cohesive, and it feels very much like it still came from my brain. So
nice. And that's great that you're able to, with a commissioned piece still, with, specific direction and for a specific project, that you're able to put so much of what you want into it and what you like into it and still feel like it's one of your favorite things. That must be nice to be able to have that that balance, that connectivity between your personal work and the commission work.
Yeah, absolutely. What I love about, because I do love collaboration, and when you are commissioned, or when someone reaches out to you, they reach out to you specifically because they like what you're already doing. So like, I'm glad to have a good enough reputation where I get a lot of people who want to work with me, and I'm glad that I have a style that I think that can be used for a lot of different situations, or like a lot of different things and a lot of different kind of mediums. So it's really, that's really fun. Like I do love when they're like, just go ham, just do what you want. And I'm like, yes.
That's great. And I think we have another slide here of so these are some of your sketches for that design, and it's really fun seeing this. Looks like it's just in your sketchbook on graph paper, probably after asking ideas. You see the cars there, you see the hands there, and it's cool seeing these early ideations. How long would you say you spend on this process before moving into a digital? Like, how many pages of this would you do, or is it different for every project?
It's kind of different for every project. I'm kind of overwrought when it comes to things. I like to squeeze it until nothing else can come out. So I like to actually, for longer processes or longer projects, I like to have as many options as I possibly can until I finally decide which is the best direction to go. Because even though a lot of times your first kind of idea is your best idea, like a lot of times. But it's still helpful for me to like keep on sketching, keep on having ideation, and keep on working until like I ran out of ideas. And so that's where I can like either go back to the first one, or I can go back to the first one and bring in elements of the other sketches that I made. Or I can go back to the first one or go back to the third one, because sometimes the third one's the best one. I can bring a bunch of different elements and like make it what it is. But like for this one, I think I probably had like up to like 6 sketches, maybe like up to 6 or 7, between 5 and 10. Honestly, I usually work like between 5 and 10 is where a lot of my sketches tend to. Yeah, 5 and 10. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like a solid answer. Great. And we will be looking at a bit of your process later on in a few moments here. We're going to look at how you take some of that work from the sketch phase up to the final digital phase. But we have a few more images to look at. There's another piece that you sent along, or maybe I plucked this one from the website. But either way, this is
Yeah, you probably did. So this is the first of, I did a whole series, called it my Negro series. It was like my first of the whole entire thing. So what happened, how that piece came about is like COVID happened, it's still happening, and I had a lot of time last year because I had an internship that ended. And I was like, well, I'm going to try to focus on freelancing. So there's this comedian, her name is Duce Sloan. I think that's how you pronounce it. She actually works for Seth Meyers. And she referred to herself as a brunching Negro in one of her specials. And it was so funny. Like, it was just a very, very, very sticky, like a very sticky saying that I could not get out of my mind. Because I can kind of relate, because I grew up in I was born in Detroit, but I moved out to the suburbs like 9 or 10 years old. So like, I'm pretty suburban. So like when she said that, and she referred to herself as being kind of suburban, it was just very sticky and funny and kind of relatable. And so I was like, I gotta make art out of this. I can't get this out of my mind. So I made this piece based on her idea of like brunching Negroes, but I took it very literally. So I literally just had them eating brunch, and I liked it. I thought I was gonna be done with this, like I thought it was gonna be like a solo thing. But I was like, no, I want to push this kind of farther. So I made 2 more based on like the brunching series. I mean, the brunchingness. And then I did one for Black people in the woods, just like hanging out in nature, because I was inspired by me going up north. So I went up north, and I was just like, oh, these trees are so pretty. I want to draw people in trees, like being in nature and just enjoying nature. And I was like, okay, well, the series continues. So like, I was like, well, if I was done, I'm not done. So I did that. And then what else I did was like, I thought I was done. I was like, okay, I'm done. But I did like the whole with Breonna Taylor and like things like that, and how unfortunately a lot of Black people feel as though they're not even safe in their homes. I was like, oh no, I feel compelled to do something else. So I did another part where they're just at home and just being in their houses and just their sanctuary. So like with this series, to me, it's a bit of like kind of somewhat of a reaction to trauma. Like with brunching, a lot of my grandfather has the story he tells us where he would sit down in a restaurant and nobody would serve him. And I was like, well, I want to create a situation where they can be served and they're happy. And like with the nature one, where they're like, in nature, my cousin was telling me a story about how she actually moved to Las Vegas, and her family like to hike. And she says sometimes people look at her kind of weird, or like they wouldn't expect her to be there because she's a Black woman with her family. Well, it's like, well, I want to create a situation where they don't feel like they're being looked at or judged, that they can just like go ahead. So I just wanted to create situations where Black people can be themselves without any pushback. So that's kind of like, it started with a joke, I do say Salon, but it kind of led to like another interpretation, another way of like, it kind of was like, I wanted to talk about trauma without actually showing trauma. I wanted to show the opposite. I wanted to show a utopia. So that's how that came about. And so this series, it's been relatively successful too. Like a lot of people like it. So, and it honestly, out of all the things I've done, this means like probably the most to me. And again, this is ongoing too. I want to make another part of the series, but again, I'm wonderfully busy, so I don't have the time. So, but yeah, I want to keep on exploring it.
Nice. Well, that's not a bad problem to have of being too busy making art. But yeah, this one was just really beautiful, I thought. We've got a few more to look at in whatever order we have. This one I like because it was a really melds your design with the illustration, and I love the simplicity of these illustrations, how much it shows, with a real limited palette, real just bold lines, and then also your the type, the layout, using it as an informational flyer, which I thought was really neat.
Yeah, this was super fun. So Rent Party Detroit, they are actually they're a nonprofit, and they raise funds for people through concerts and like various other means, or you can just donate. They raise funds for people who have potential to be unhomed or like homeless because of like eviction and just things that they really can't control. So what they do is they have these like rent parties where they're like throw a concert or they'll do something along those lines, and people pay to get in, and that the money that you put in is used to help a person, keep their homes. It's kind of like a fundraiser sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very happy that the head lady, her name is I think her name is Lindsay, if I remember correctly. I could be completely wrong though. We haven't spoken in a minute, but she reached out to me and she was like, "Hey, I would love to I've seen your work and I'd love to work with you." And I was like, "Oh, cool, thank you." So this was fun. It was for a Christmas Zoom concert. So I was like, well, I want to talk about Zoom because Zoom is huge, like, because we're all at home. And so I did the illustrations, and she wanted me to do flyers for like Facebook and Instagram. And so I just, it was fun because, like you said, I got to illustrate, but I also got to design, and I also got to kind of art direct because everything had to be consistent and everything had to look like it was from one event. So I got to do all those different elements that I, do and bring them all into just one, low key kind of campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when working on this was super fun. I had a super fun time. And two, like, I was glad that like a nonprofit wanted to work with me because the thing is, like, when you're illustrating, when you're a commercial artist, like, you do stuff for like Google and like Coca-Cola and things like that. But like with this, there's like no guilt, if that makes any sense. It's just for a good cause. Like,
yeah,
it's just a good thing.
Yeah, and it's always refreshing when maybe a smaller or like a small new nonprofit like that is taking the initiative and realizing the value and having a professional make the illustration and having it, that there's worth in having this, original art being used for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so it's just fun. That's why I kind of like also like to work with University of Michigan for like, I work for the medical department. Like, that's also like not very guilty. Like you're making illustrations for like medical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just, you don't have to deal with like certain ethics or anything like that. Sure. But yeah, I like working for nonprofits. I like doing work for like that actually helps community. So this was fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah,
and I encourage you to donate money to Rent Party Detroit. Yeah. Donate money. You can donate anytime. So like,
yeah, they're a great organization. They always have a lot of, they work with a lot of artists and always have fun, prints you can get and just all sorts of stuff. They're a good group. But we've
Yeah.
got a few more here until we get to your demo. This one you were talking about a little bit.
This is my mom's favorite.
Yeah, that is your mom's favorite. That's what I was hoping you would mention. That's great. And can you tell us just a little bit about what your the influence behind this one was?
So, like when I get my hair done, like when you get your hair done, I don't know what it's like at other salons, but all the salons that I've been to, when you get your hair done, they have like art on the walls. A lot of like Annie Lee, who's a big influence on me, like they'll have her type of work and like other types of work. And a lot of the work is about getting your hair done. And one day I was getting my hair done. I was waiting for my turn. I was looking around and I was like, this art is amazing. Like I really just sat down and looked at it because I kind of took advantage of the fact that it was just kind of always in your house or always around. But I really stopped to look at it. I said, this is fantastic work. And I was like, I want to make one. I want to make a hair salon picture. And so that was me. Actually, this is like the third iteration. I did like 2.
Also
before.
a series again.
Yeah, and I hated them. They just were not good enough. And I was like, nope. So I got rid of them. And then it's like something I kind of re-explored every 6 months. And this was the final one. And so I was like, yeah, this is it. I think I'm done. I don't think I need to explore this anymore. This is the best one. I can't really top it. And so I made it and I showed it to my mom. And she was just like, oh my God, this is like, she's like, you do good work. I love everything that you do. But this is my favorite. Like this is I love it. So she is actually hanging in her office, like it's on her wall, like on the computer. But yeah, the big thing was I wanted them to be queenly. So that's why I have them like
in the throne, kind of.
Yeah, in those like thrones. And the thrones and the hair dryer at the top and like their bonnets and their head wraps are their crowns. So I just wanted them to be seen as queenly. So, and I wanted them to kind of, boldly and brazenly look at the camera or look at the viewer. Another big inspiration for this piece was Michaela Thomas. I love her. She's huge. And so I love the way how she incorporates color and texture and pattern and Black femaleness into her work. And so I was hugely inspired by what she did, but I want to make it digital and commercial and like poppy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this so every time I see this piece, I just think of my mom because she loves it so much. And growing up, she was forever in a hair salon. Like forever in a hair salon. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Beyond these maybe commercial paintings you've seen in salons and McLean Thomas, are there any other, we haven't talked about this much yet, any other main artists that you are inspired by or really have influenced you in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually love, unironically, because I know this is probably like really traditional, I love Norman Rockwell. I think he is a fantastic, he's like the master of telling a story with a picture or like with the image. And how he was able to express like his work is very expressive, which I really love. Like Kaylin Thomas, Annie Lee, like she's from Chicago and she actually kind of got famous a little bit like later in life. But like her style is fantastic. It's very figurative. She doesn't render faces. So it's basically about body and color and movement, which I'm super attracted to. And plus I grew up with her work, even though I didn't know it, I kind of discovered her like later and I was like, I should have been really paying attention to her like when I was like 10. But another person I love is Chris Ware. He's a comic book artist. I think he's a genius. Actually the Metro Times cover is basically really my knockoff of a Chris Ware piece. So he's brilliant.
Oh yeah, he's done a lot of like New Yorker covers and that kind of style.
Yeah, he kind of does. Like he's like, to me, it's like his work is super, super American. Like all the work that I'm really attracted to is super, super American. Another person is Emory Douglas. Love Emory Douglas. I discovered him in college and you know, he was like the art director for like the Black Panther Party, and so his work,
Right.
the bold lines, the color, the movement, the message, is poignant, and he doesn't. It's very striking, which I love, and
Yeah.
I think two more. Coretta Kent, she was a nun in the 1960s. But she also was a teacher, and she was a graphic artist. Um, she's brilliant.
Oh yeah.
And Keith Haring, I love Keith Haring. I like what I love about Keith Haring is his approach to art. He was very democratic. So he was like, I want everyone to see my art, and if you can't find my art, I'm going to put on a T-shirt. Or he did graffiti, and everyone can see it
in the subway.
I love art that's like democratic, or like anyone can have access to, or anybody can understand.
Sure.
I'm not super bougie or pretentious. I like, again, I think that's also me working commercially. I like things to be relatively immediate. So
yeah,
that's my sweet spot.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, those are all some great. That's a great list there. Let's look at a few more. We're at 1:36 already. We don't have time for that demo.
Okay.
So
I've been talking too much. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Well, let's just maybe kind of go through these last couple slides kind of quick. If you just want to say a few things about these ones.
So these were fun. I did these kind of after I did the other series. It's about communication, and I wanted to kind of portray something that was a little weird. I like weird things. Like, I get a lot of work because my work is optimistic, but I also personally, I like to do like things that kind of don't make sense, or a little bit off kilter, or a little bit odd. And so with these, I wanted to talk about the different ways people communicate. So I have like an analog phone, I do it on a cell phone, and and a lady video chatting, but everything just seems like kind of off. Like the water spilled. Why did the water spill? He's getting a phone call. Who is he talking to? He looks very upset. Same with her. She's getting a video call. She looks very upset. And then the dude in the background, he's knocking on the door. I just wanted this series to feel a little bit anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
So this is not ongoing. This is done. But this is done. But yeah, I wanted to do something that kind of talks about communication and anxiety, and I wanted everything to look like very similar in color. So that's why everything's very yellow and very pink.
Yeah, like it looks like this could be like a comic strip, or like some sort of like updated like film noir kind of thing. Just suspenseful story here. That's great. I hate to zoom through these, but I do want to get to your demo.
No, it's fine. I was talking too much.
No, it's great.
I did this for Ann Arbor District Library. They have a thing called the Summer Games. And so each year they collaborate with an artist, and the artist makes like basically the illustration that the designers and the people who work at the library can put on different things, like buses and T-shirts and things like that. So the big thing was, when they tapped me to do this for the commission, they did not know how COVID was going to be like. They didn't know if we can go outside, and then they didn't know what summer 2021 was going to be like. So they wanted me to take elements of summer, like the popsicle and bugs and fruit, and apply that into a scene that people can. There aren't any people, but you get the feeling of summer, if that makes any sense. So like, you see it, you feel summer, but you don't. But there aren't any scenes because we didn't know what people were going to do. We didn't know what COVID was going to be like. So they were like kind of showing crowds might not be a good idea, which I felt the same way. So it's fun because I got to put the energy that I put into drawing people and making figures, and I got to make this illustration very figurative without technically there being any figures. So that was a really fun challenge.
Yeah, that's like an interesting challenge, and pretty different from some of your other work, especially for a place like Ann Arbor that, definitely I would imagine felt very different when, kids weren't in school and weren't on campus and stuff, but it's still summer. All right. And then we've got one more here that I liked this one a lot, this North End. This is part of a kind of a campaign, and I like seeing this. You said you collaborated with someone to work on this project, and I like, seeing the illustration and design, and then seeing the design, out on these signs out in the world. And that must be cool to see things go from your computer in your room in your studio to then seeing that, out in the world, whether it's a print or whether it's a sign or whatever else, a magazine cover.
Yeah, like it's kind of it's grounding to see things like in the context that they're supposed to be used in. So, but yeah, this was super fun. I collaborated with Good Done Daily. They're an agency and they prioritize working with nonprofits. And so Andy, who's the head honcho at Good Gun Daily, who's the sweetest guy on the planet, he wanted me to make an illustration that I can send out in like postcards because they were doing stuff for the North End because the North End was getting money to help like beautify the area. So he wanted me to make like an illustration that they can use and remix and do a bunch of different things with it. So I sent him that final illustration, and him and his team was able to make signage and postcards and blast it all over the North End. And so it was really lovely to see. So that was really fun. It was a really fun, extensive project. I had a good time doing it.
That's great. We've got a few more, and we've got a piece here to talk about your process real quick. If we could maybe just go through this one real quick, and we can always come back to it because I do want to get to your little demo.
Yeah, totally.
Let's just start with that. We've got this final piece, and then on the next slide, we've got your pen and pencil drawings, or paper and pencil, like we saw earlier. And then we've got kind of a touched up version of that. And then we've got some hand drawn but digital little designs, part of the process. And then I think the last one is just kind of a zoomed in version of it. And I think that was neat. And I didn't mean to blow through that quickly, but you're going to share your screen now and kind of talk about what program you use and talk about some of the process behind it in case people aren't familiar with Adobe Illustrator or these types of digital art making techniques. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to keep posting them, and we'll get to those before we log off at 2.
Cool. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. So I use this program called Illustrator. So there's kind of 2 big programs when it comes to or actually 3 when it comes to illustration. There's Illustrator, there is Photoshop, and there's Procreate. Illustrator, you do a lot of vectors. So like if you see logos and things like that, like really flat things, they're probably using Illustrator. Photoshop deals with pixels. So if you see like a digital painting or something with a lot of texture and things like that, that's probably Photoshop. Procreate is a program I do not have, but I'm going to get it when I get an iPad. So like Procreate is kind of like the same with illustration. I mean, it's the same with Photoshop, but you actually, since on the iPad, you can like actually, draw it on the actual, program. So yeah, just all really quick run-throughs of the programs. Well, and the way I work, I typically work in Illustrator. If I need to do like a little texture or something, or if there's something then in Photoshop that I need, I'll bring it into Photoshop real quick. But my bread and butter is Illustrator, and like usually with clients, they actually a lot of times they prefer you to work in Illustrator because it's scalable and it's super easy. So let's see. Can you see me? Can you see this?
Oh yeah. So there's your tablet you use for
This is my
drawing.
tablet, and this, what I'll do is like, you can't see it now because I can't draw like this, but I'll put my pen on the
just
tablet.
A smidge higher.
See it?
Yeah. Oh
okay.
yeah, there's your pen. Yeah.
And then and you just kind of scroll it around, and that's how I primarily work. I use a lot of Wacom Tablet, and this is kind of like, it's not even like the highest of key ones. There's Wacom tablets that have like screens and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't have that. So, but yeah, that's basically how I work. I use a mouse and a Wacom tablet, and it's, it's super, super, to me, it's not that interesting or like not that complicated, but to somebody else, it probably is. So the way I usually work is I start out with a sketch like this, and I can add a little bit to the sketch so you can see, oh, there we go. All right. So I will like do the brush tool, and then I'll just like, draw it in and brush it in. Like if I have a reference, I'll probably put it off to the side or something. But yeah, I would just like start sketching an idea or something. And mind you, this is now going to be like a super, elaborate bee because this
Right,
is just
right.
like
This should be
it's like
a quick sample.
so
Sure.
like I don't
Let's get rid of
want anyone to get too excited. So like yeah, I'll just like sketch it out and then I might make another layer and I'll add color. So I'll like take a pen tool and I'll like, get yellow or something. And I would just boom.
And
Yellow.
for anyone not familiar with Illustrator, the pen tool is actually, it's kind of misleading because I don't even know how to describe it, but it's a brush tool is what you were using to, draw those
Yeah.
shapes. The pen tool is used to, make these big, broad shapes or do outlines in a real quick way where you draw and pull and twist and make these
yeah,
nice
absolutely.
curves.
And the thing is, people get very, very intimidated by the pen tool.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, don't. I like to tell people, like, actually, because when I was working at, well, I'm still working there, but at U of M, we had an intern, and she wanted to ask questions about Illustrator because she was like, I'm so nervous about the pen tool. I was like, baby, don't be nervous. It's okay. I was like, what you do is like the best way I can do it. If you wanted to start out with the pen tool, make like little shapes or just like make or just like use the pen tool to accent a drawing that you already have made up. So when I told her that, she was like, oh, that makes sense. I was like, yeah, just start out small. And then once you start out small, you can like, kind of expand and you can do more things with it. So yeah, this is a little ready bee. So what I'm going to do is add like a little, I'm going to go back to my brush tool. I'm going to change over here and I'm going to make this, I don't know, black or something. So I'll like really goofy stripes. I'll make it fat. Boom, 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 boom.
And is this, are you still on the second layer here? So you have your sketch
Yeah,
layer?
yeah. I'm still in the color layer.
Okay.
But yeah, even though like this is like a very like quick kind of way that I'm working right now, this is kind of basically like what I do. I don't keep it like super complicated. I keep everything in layers. I like to keep things separated so I can, see how the other layers are affecting each other, or like, if that makes any sense. Here's a little bee. Boom, 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 boom. So this is like
a very cute little bee.
It's a very cute little bee. Actually, when I did the Ann Arbor thing, they told me, they was like, can you make the bee cute? Because we don't want a scary bee. I was like, that's valid. I understand. I will not make you a scary bee. So yeah, this is just like a really quick sketch of what like a bee or how I work. And like if I had more time, sure. And I could finesse this a little more. And if this was like a commission or something, the bee would end up kind of looking like this. I'm gonna turn these layers down. But yeah, so like this is a version of like a bee that I made. So with this, let me see if I can point. This is I had to expand everything, but with this I used the pen tool, like to make the outlines and things like that. And then I used the brush tool to get like those little textures and things. But yeah, that's it. Usually there's a lot of pen tool, a lot of brush tool. But yeah, it's actually, it's from my opinion, it's actually it's pretty simple, but I can see why someone else would not think it's
yeah. And I think the pen tool in particular, it's kind of the tablet with a pen using like drawing, that's very like one-to-one, but the pen tool, as it were, these vector graphics, it's kind of an unfamiliar thing that's kind of can maybe be make people hesitant at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's really quite a helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to get the hang of it. And two, I think people, once they kind of explore a Wacom tablet, the pen tool does not become as scary, because working the pen tool with the mouse can be kind of clunky. But like if you have like some type of drawing tablet or have some type of thing where you can like you have more control and have more freedom, I think the pen tool becomes a little bit more doable and a little bit more flexible for what you want. I remember when I was in college, I was one of the few people who actually used a Wacom tablet, and everyone was like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
how can you use that? And I was like, it's actually really intuitive. You should just really try it.
Yeah. So that would be your advice for anyone that's looking to maybe start out or try, is to just do it, just kind of
Just do it. Just do it. Like when I said, when I was in college, I wanted to explore digital illustration, and I was like, well, I think I need to use one of these Wacom tablets in the lab. And so I just sat down, I plugged it in, I sat down, and I just tried it, and I just played around with it, and then I was able to like, kind of gradually do more sophisticated kind of stuff with it. And so you just have to sit down and you just have to try it. Like,
Mm.
I know because Adobe, like, there's a lot of tools at the side. Like, as you see, the toolbar is extensive.
Yeah.
The thing is, when you keep on working, you're going to figure out what works for you,
Mhm.
what doesn't work for you, what you like, what you don't like, what fits into how you work. And so, like I said, I don't use like a lot of tools. I use the pen tool, I use the brush tool.
Mhm.
I use, I erase things.
Sure.
That's that's really it. I don't use like all those tools you see at the side. I'm not using all those tools.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the tools that I do use, I try to finesse them the best that I can.
Mhm. And it's good too to see. I'm glad that you shared those sketches with us as well on the slides we looked at. I think that's an important lesson that I always try and say to middle schoolers, high schoolers that are maybe beginning to Photoshop, and they have so many more resources than I did at that age of, whether their schools have these programs or free online programs or things, they can just like jump right into it. But I always try and say, like, it's still good to, be able to draw and practice drawing, and those skills will help you once it's time to, make it digital.
Yeah, to me, like with illustration, with anything really, you have to have the fundamentals before you decide to like, remix it and do weird things with it. Actually, a friend of mine who I met at UDP, the printing place I used to work at, she's a teacher now, and she teaches, or she teaches a classroom, and so she wanted me to speak to her classroom about digital illustration and drawing because her classroom was very curious about it. And so, I broke down my process and everything for them, but I basically told them, I was like, yeah, you just gotta you kind of just gotta start, if that makes any sense. Like you gotta if you can have if you have the programs available, you just gotta muck around with them, and you gotta just kind of go for what you know. Like ideally, like with me with these programs, I learned them in college. Like, but some people actually learned them in high school, and that's even better. So like I had to take a fresher course on all the Adobe products, and then I went to graphic design 1. So I kind of had to like have an idea about how these programs worked, and then I went to go on with it. But like it's like you don't have to. To me, with these, you don't have to be a master at them. You just have to know what works best for you. Like some people they can finesse the heck out of everything that Adobe offers, and I am not one of those people. But like, I can do what I do. And
right. Which is the same way with, if you're a painter or if you're a ceramics, there's going to be things you can do and things you don't do. And maybe maybe that's just, you're clearly getting by with the tools you are using. That this, you've got quite a bit going on in these.
Yeah. And you gotta be willing to learn more. Like always don't be stagnant.
Yeah.
Always be willing to learn more, but like know what works best for you.
Speaking of always learning more, so you've been out of college for a bit. Do you ever find yourself like looking up like any like tutorials or on YouTube or things for like new techniques or tricks? Or
yes, actually, at my job I have to work in After Effects. I suck at it, so I'm learning as I work on it. And thankfully, my coworker knows what he's doing because I don't. So like, I'm learning as I do it. So I think that and like just recently, like the other day, I downloaded all these texture packs from this place because I wanted to have like a lot more texture in my work. So like I'm learning how to use texture and things like that.
Yeah.
So
there's so many of those now. I always get like sponsored ads for like filters and texture packs and things you can download to make your
yeah. I use this place, it's True Grit Supply. I think that's what they're called. And they're pretty reputable. Like a lot of people use True Grit Supply. And I was like, I'm just gonna I think they're having a sale because of Black Friday. And I was like, I'm just going to download all these. And I'm like, I'm just going to explore them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm always like, it's always good to be abreast to like what to broaden your skill set, especially if you work in a creative field. Like things are always kind of changing. And so like it's good to like broaden yourself. Even like what I said earlier with Procreate, I think that's a relatively newerish program.
Yeah,
But
that's something.
everyone loves it. So
Yeah, that's something I don't recall. We haven't talked about this at all, but I actually went to school for illustration also.
yeah, I know. Lee told me.
Yeah, I don't recall ever hearing Procreate until the past few years, and now it's what I see. You know, old classmates and old teachers and younger kids, and it seems like it's what a lot of people are using, and it's amazing the stuff you can do with it too. It's pretty incredible.
Absolutely. Oh, there's a couple. What advice do you have for someone just starting out? My chair is falling. So advice I have for someone just starting out. You're gonna get rejected a lot. So like with me, I got rejected a lot. I'll send cold emails, I'll send cold calls, and like, nothing really came of it. What really kind of helped me when I was starting out as an illustrator is finding unconventional ways to get my name out there. So we didn't really talk about the blog, but I did a blog with my friend, and the blog was relatively it was like spread out in the area, and the people at Ann Arbor District Library saw it. They liked my work and they wanted to work with me, and that was like my first big project. I didn't email them or anything. I just did a blog. When I did an interview with this place called Creative Boom earlier this year, and I talked about my Negro series. And when I did that, I got an agent because he read my interview and he liked it, and he was like, do you want anybody? Do you have representation? I was like, no. So he was like, do you want some? And I was like, yes. So the thing is, like, you have to find, like, cold calling is nice, cold emailing is nice. Those, you might actually get a gig with that.
Mm-hmm.
But my thing is, find unconventional ways to put your work out there, and then always kind of put your work out there. If you can, have a website, have an Instagram, have a Behance. Like, Instagram is a great way for people to get used to seeing your work. It's a great way for people, you can get used to showing your work and people seeing your work, and that gives you kind of a weird sort of confidence to like, find other ways for people to see your work also.
Yeah. That's a great piece of advice there. And we've got your website there at the bottom. Folks can click on that or click on it through the comments if it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the programs that I use, like Illustrator, they're all Adobe. So Procreate is not Adobe, but everything else is Adobe.
Yeah.
So if you want to get into this field, or if you're curious about working digitally, you have to get Adobe. They have a clutch on the market.
Yeah.
So any resources, YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube, if you can Skillshare, like, there's a bunch of different ways that you can. Yeah. But yeah, YouTube. When I was working on the videos, I used a lot of YouTube. So
thanks. All right. Well, we've got about 2 minutes. Any last thing you want to promote, or projects you've got coming up, or should we just keep an eye on your website, Instagram?
Oh, I have a project that's coming up that I can finally talk about maybe in the next couple of weeks. It just depends on what my client says. So that should be fun. I'm working on a children's book in January.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be fun. I'm also doing a bunch of stuff for U of M. So like if you go to the U of M medical blogs, you'll probably see my illustrations. Peep my Instagram. Cool. I'm always on Instagram. So like, yeah.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Justine. We're right about at time, so we will wrap up. But thanks again for joining us. Thanks for sharing your work. Loved seeing it. Loved talking about it. We could probably keep going for so much longer, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But we'll have to have you back sometime and see some future projects. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll be back next Thursday, the 9th, with Ray Henney, Cindy Patrick, and Tana Jenkins. And they're going to talk about the Black is Beautiful photography exhibit, which is up right now, which is really amazing. And thanks to Ian and Amanda for helping out and producing and taking care of everything behind the scenes. See you all next time.